Hello, I'm Mike Huckman and welcome everyone to Good Day Bio. We're here to give you some of the highlights of the day and to feature some of the people, the topics, the programs shaping this year's Bio International Convention, the world's biggest biotechnology meeting. We've got another jam-packed agenda today with super sessions and panel discussions that provide partnering, education, and networking opportunities all day long. First, if you've never had an opportunity to hear JP Morgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon speak live and in person, today is your chance. Head over to his keynote address session from 9 to 10:45 in the morning. You will not want to miss it. Then just 15 minutes after that, you can hear Merck CEO Ken Frazier sit down with CNBC's Meg Terrell for a fireside chat. At 4:30 in the afternoon, everyone's invited to the patient advocacy reception here on the exhibit hall floor, followed by the big bio party at the Philadelphia Met from 7 to 9. One of the highlights from yesterday was the opening keynote address by Bio CEO Jim Greenwood, where he spoke, among other things, about the cost of medicine.
The confounding thing about the drug pricing debate is that patients and politicians aren't talking about the same price. Patients want their out-of-pocket costs lowered. They care about what they have to pay at the pharmacy counter. And many of the policies being debated now won't make a significant difference in what patients pay out of their own pockets. Let me tell you why. Half of employer-provided health insurance policies today come with high deductibles. So if your policy has a $3,000 deductible and you need a $10,000 medicine, you're going to have to pay $3,000. Now, even if government price controls could cut the price of that drug in half to $5,000, the patient would still have to come up with $3,000. Government price controls might help insurance companies, but they wouldn't do much for patients. And if the politicians decide to replace the market's judgment of what a cure is worth to a patient with the government's arbitrary judgment of what that cure is worth, well, you can take this to the bank. Our investors will put their money somewhere else.
Joining us now to talk about future plans for bio are Jim Greenwood and incoming Bio Board Chair Dr. Jeremy Levin, who's also the Chairman and CEO of an emerging biotechnology company called Ovid Therapeutics. Gentlemen, welcome to Good Day Bio. It is great to have this opportunity to speak to you both. Let's start with you, Jim. Bio Convention is back in the state, Pennsylvania, that you obviously used to represent in Congress. So how important is this area, not just Pennsylvania, but let's think about Delaware, New Jersey, what you like to call the Silicon Valley. How important is it to biotechnology?
Well, gene therapy, which is really about taking a patient who has a mutated gene and replacing that with the correct gene, all right? And this is the greatest frontier of biotechnology. What's happened in Philadelphia was 20 years ago, a young man died in one of the early experiments, and it set gene therapy back for a very long period of time. For it to reoccur here in Philadelphia, Sparks Therapeutic, doing the amazing things they have done.
Who we're going to have on the show.
Right, and for gene therapy and cell therapy to be taking place and centered here in this area is just a wonderful recovery story for the city of Philadelphia.
And for medicine.
And for medicine.
Absolutely. Dr. Levin, as you take the gavel as the new Bio Board Chair, what are your and the board's top priorities for the next couple of years or so?
Mike, delighted to be here. And Jim, thank you and the Bio team for all that you've done, and the board, thank them for electing me. My priorities are pretty straightforward. We're an industry of innovation. We're going to focus on innovation. Anything that can stimulate innovation. And as we look at that, we're also going to confront in a very, very steadfast fashion and a very clear and transparent fashion the issues of pricing. How do we reduce the cost to patients? A lot to be done there. We'll engage with all stakeholders. We'll engage fundamentally with Congress, physicians, and at the end of the day, we'll ask one question: how can we benefit the patient?
Dr. Levin, we have seen so many advances, some of which Jim just referred to, in the field of rare disease medicine specifically. Even just this week, we saw conditional European approval of a new gene therapy for a rare blood disorder. So as the CEO also of a company, Ovid Therapeutics, that's working in rare diseases, are we still in the early days here? What's the promise? What's the hope?
Mike, there are 7,000 rare diseases. 30,000 families across America, so roughly about 120 million Americans who suffer from these diseases. So for us, rare diseases are just beginning to open up. We've gone into Angelman's, rare disorders of epilepsy. Others are beginning to look into some of the key gene defects and fix them. So I think that we are on the cusp of a revolution.
Let's all hope that's the case. Jim, you mentioned gene therapy. We've talked about rare diseases. Besides those things, as the head of Bio, what else gives you hope? Whether it's in therapeutic discovery and development, whether it's a new technology, a new platform, or even in the food supply for your member companies?
Well, working on rare diseases is absolutely critical, and the kind of work that Dr. Levin and his company and others are doing is spectacular. We still have huge diseases that affect millions and millions of people. So take Alzheimer's disease, all right? It's costing us $250 billion a year, and by 2050 it'll be up to $1 trillion a year. We can't afford that. We have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars, biotech companies, trying to find a treatment for Alzheimer's, and they've all failed. So we have to still keep at it. We will succeed at that. But in the meantime, Congress has to make sure it doesn't destroy the incentives for us to continue to invest in these very risky enterprises.
And not just the economic cost, but certainly the personal and the family cost.
Alzheimer's is a terrible disease for the patient and for all of their loved ones.
Yep. Jim Greenwood, Dr. Jeremy Levin, thank you so much for being here on Good Day Bio. Have a great rest of the conference. And Dr. Levin, best wishes as you take the gavel as Bio Board Chair.
Thank you, Mike.
What's hot in the hall today? Let's check in again with Benjamin Keynes, who's been roving around picking up the buzz at the booths.
The international presence here on the Bio Exhibit Hall continues to grow, with Canada and South Korea having the largest delegation this year.
This is a really important forum for Biotech Canada. If you look around the trade show floor, you see what the competition is. It's not a bunch of companies selling gadgets and widgets. It's countries, it's states, it's regions, and they're all putting out their welcome mats. They want our ideas, they want our people, they want the investment dollars that are going to flow. And we're supporting our companies for that reason.
More and more countries attend every year, this being the first time Uruguay has been in attendance.
This is the first time Uruguay has had a sizable presence, and not only with the Uruguayan companies, but also with several multinational companies that have chosen Uruguay as their head R&D and manufacturing site. So for us, really, this is a landmark conference.
Bio 101 partnering continues to grow in what is sure to be another record-breaking year. Other exciting exhibits include the Bio Patient Advocacy Pavilion.
The Patient Advocacy Pavilion is really a great networking opportunity. They actually have their partnering meetings here in this pavilion. We're hosting a reception later today at 4:30, where hundreds of attendees will come and meet with over 75 patient advocacy groups that we have attending this year.
Make sure to check out these exciting exhibits and more.
Thanks, Benjamin. If you have some spare time, or better yet, just make the time to check out the Startup Stadium competition right here on the exhibit hall floor today and the first half of tomorrow. You'll get to listen to the leaders of select nascent companies from all over the world and from across the life sciences spectrum do live 6-minute pitches with a lot on the line. They're all competing for a sizable prize. Nareg Sagirian, Bio's Director of Investor Relations and Programming, oversees that contest, and Lori Ackman, the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of UPenn Center for Innovation, is one of this year's judges. I spoke with them earlier about this cool competition. Welcome to Good Day Bio. It's great to have the two of you here.
Thank you for having us.
Sure, so let's start with you, Nareg, because I think there's probably a good deal of people out there who don't know what the Startup Stadium is. What is it?
It is Bio's own version of Shark Tank. It's where we kind of put the spotlight on early stage companies, very, very early stage companies, and we have them apply to our program, have them go through a round of review, and then we pick our finalists and have them present in front of stakeholders within the Bio International Convention and potentially get 3 prizes if they get chosen as a winner.
And so 50 companies have been selected to do live 6-minute pitches here on the exhibit hall floor.
Exactly. The 50 companies will present in front of 6 to 10 judges for 6 minutes. They'll get 8 minutes of Q&A, kind of back and forth feedback, and then we will select a winner from one winner from each of the 5 sessions.
And Lori, you're one of those judges who gets to watch these live pitches and then test them with some of the Q&A, and you also help select the finalists from the field of about 150 that applied to be here at Bio.
Right.
So what appealed to you or appeals to you? What are the things that you look for in a good pitch?
Well, at Penn, I've had the opportunity to see some amazing startups emerge out of our research portfolio. And so what I'm really looking for out of these pitches is compelling science, or science that
Number
I think
one.
will have an impact and is different or is filling a gap in what's already out there. Number two, I look for a market need. So what problem is it solving or helping to solve even further? And number three, I look for experience and passion. It's really hard to move a startup forward. You're presented with hurdles every day. So having passion and even the CEO's personal story, I think, can help connect you to why you think this startup is really going to make it.
All makes perfect sense and sound like excellent criteria to use. What's at the end of the rainbow? What do the winners get?
Absolutely. The winners each get 3 prizes. They get a Bio Prize, which is a membership to Bio. They get a Venture Investor Prize, which is an interaction with a biotech venture capital firm. And they get an Innovation Prize, which is an investment potentially by an accelerator within the ecosystem and within the biotech ecosystem. So it's something where we can hopefully take them and get them to that next stage of life, that small, medium-sized enterprise level. And whatever we can do, we try to do it here at Bio.
And Lori, as you mentioned, as somebody who's seen firsthand what startups at the UPenn level need, how crucial are those things in the early stage of a company?
Oh, it's amazing. Not only the access to money, but the resources and the advice you would get through an accelerator, incubator, and being part of the biotech ecosystem. That is what really helps accelerate the growth of any startup. In Philadelphia and at Penn, we've tried to create a similar ecosystem. What Bio has done is kind of brought this to a huge international level. So I think the visibility and the relationships and the resources are an amazing potential win for any startup that is successful in this competition.
Great, well, good luck judging the rest of the way, and we will look forward to hearing who the winners are tomorrow on Thursday.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Philadelphia is full of history and iconic places to visit during your trip. We spoke to a few attendees to find out what they were looking forward to seeing outside of the convention.
It feels like an old town, but at the same time it's so energetic.
This is where the country started. You can walk down the street to Independence Hall.
Some running this morning along the canal, which was beautiful. And then I came here and I was inside all day.
I managed to have a good walk yesterday, saw the Liberty Bell. I went down to Independence and around those parks and stuff, saw some squirrels, which is a new experience for us as well.
Liberty Bell, Rocky Art Museum.
I was at the Barnes Museum. That is fantastic. I can actually tell everyone that's really something you have to see.
I'm from Montreal, Canada, so the hockey connection's a bit of a big one for me. Hockey season's done, so I'm not able to do that. I'm going to go take down those stairs and I'm going to get the theme of Rocky to accompany me, and I look forward to that.
The theme of this year's convention is It Starts With One. In this instance, it starts with one spark, Spark Therapeutics, which recently became the first ever biopharmaceutical company to receive FDA approval of a so-called gene therapy, or a one-time treatment for a genetic disease. To talk more about the quest to achieve this monumental scientific and medical advance is Dr. Kathy High, Spark Therapeutics President and Head of R&D, and Carter Esham, Bio's Executive Vice President of Emerging Companies and Senior Vice President of Science and Regulatory Policy. Welcome to Good Day Bio. It's great to have both of you here.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Dr. High, because earlier on in the show, Jim Greenwood mentioned Spark Therapeutics. And so tell us about your company Starts With One Story.
Our company starts with one story. Had to do with a meeting that took place between me and Jeff Marazzo, who is now the company's CEO. In those days, I directed a unit at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia that was trying to establish an experimental basis for cell and gene therapies for serious disorders that affected the pediatric population. And Jeff was a young entrepreneur who had been asked by the CEO of the hospital to go around, spend 3 months, talk to 100 different professors, and figure out if there was any way the hospital could be making money that the CEO had not thought of. Honestly, I repeatedly postponed the meeting with Jeff because I was very busy with my own work right then.
Yes.
However, eventually the two of us sat down. We both saw that the other one represented something very important for the next step in what we were doing. And the meeting stretched to hours and hours, but it was the beginning of Spark Therapeutics.
What a great Genesis story. Carter, given the advent of gene therapies like the one from Spark Therapeutics and now others, and a whole slew of other cutting-edge therapeutic approaches, that's all great news for patients. But as somebody who's a regulatory affairs expert, what challenges, if any, does all that new stuff present to, for example, the FDA? And how do we overcome those challenges?
Sure. Well, and again, the great news is this is the first, and this is a new wave of gene therapies, cell-based therapies, and we're all going to continue to learn, both on a regulatory side, and we're going to learn a lot of lessons from Dr. Hai's work and Spark Therapeutics. But first and foremost, I would say, of top of mind, is we want to make sure that as this pipeline is increasing, particularly for the Center for Biological and Evaluation Research, for CBER, we want to make sure that they have the people that they need, any resources that they need. Again, the workload there is significantly going to change over the coming years, and so we're going to look for every opportunity to make sure that they have what they need so we can support them to do the important work they do to review these new types of medical products.
So there is a call to action in there on the regulatory side, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think you'll hear that from everybody in this field, on the regulatory side, the industry side, the patient side. We all want to make sure that CBER has what they need. So yes, I think that is a call to action.
So given all the things I mentioned just a moment ago, Dr. Hai, has the time come when people need to start thinking radically differently about how, given all the ingenuity and development that we're seeing, especially in gene therapy, about how we're broadly treating and potentially curing disease?
The goal of all therapies is to try to give patients choices in how they manage their disease. One thing that I always found very exciting about gene therapy is that it has the potential to be a single one-time treatment. It will take many years in clinical development for us to understand exactly how durable gene therapy is, but I think if we can move to a paradigm where medical intervention is much less frequent and where medical interventions really have the potential to, I'm going to say, demedicalize serious conditions so that they don't require constant monitoring by physicians, in the end we'll save a lot of money to the healthcare system.
On a much lighter note, given that your company is based here in Philadelphia, really quickly, hotspots for convention attendees, must see.
The Mutter Museum at the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, they have an extraordinary collection of medical curiosities. You won't see that anywhere else. Again, close by, 22nd Street and Chestnut.
A therapeutic developer and a tour guide. Thank you both for being here, and have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you. Thanks.
This year, there are more than 50,000 partnership meetings taking place at the convention. They've grown to become one of the most important components of this annual meeting. Here with more is BIO's Director of Partnering Products and Services, Willie Reeves.
It's day 3 of partnering at the Bio International Convention in Philadelphia for 2019, and things are buzzing. As you can see around me, there's tons of meeting activity going on here. Last year in 2018, we set a Guinness World Record for the world's largest partnering event, and we've already beat that number with nearly 50,000 meetings this year. It's really fantastic to see all of the different types of companies from around and across the life science industry being able to connect, fueling the partnerships that really drive our industry forward. There's investment going on, there are panels, there are sessions, but in partnering, it all starts with one meeting, idea, conversation, one partnership, and it all starts right here at Bio 2019.
Thanks, Willie. A driver of many biotech partnerships today is the ongoing effort to discover and develop effective medicines for Alzheimer's disease. There have been a slew of therapeutic development failures in recent years, but biotech researchers and developers persist, all in an effort to hopefully combat forecasts that by the middle of this century, more than 150 million people worldwide will be affected by Alzheimer's at a cost of more than $2 trillion per year. To talk more about Bio's latest report on this big, fast-growing, and very scary problem, we're joined by David Thomas, Bio's Vice President of Industry Research, and Kenneth Mock, the CEO of Cognition Therapeutics, a company that's working in this field, and also a longtime Bio board member. Gentlemen, welcome to Good Day Bio. It's great to have both of you here.
Great to be here.
David, so let's start with you. Jim Greenwood earlier in the show called out the urgent needs, specifically in Alzheimer's disease. So what are the key findings of this year's report, and what, if anything, surprised you?
Okay, yeah, before I get to the details in Alzheimer's, I should start off by saying where the drive is behind putting this report out, and that has to do with something we saw a couple of years ago, which is a disproportionate spending on venture investments versus total healthcare costs in the US. And so we've embarked on an investigation of 6 indications so far for highly prevalent chronic diseases. And we wanted to find out if this is a more broad issue. And it turns out it is. In fact, industry-wide, we're seeing decreases in clinical trials and investments across the board. That brings us to Alzheimer's, and what we see there is the funding is 16 times below what you'll find in cancer, and the clinical initiations per year are flat over the last decade. They aren't increasing like you would see in some areas like rare disease or cancer. And the pipeline, given the success rates, is somewhat small, if you will.
Ken, at a high level, can you tell us about your company's specific approach to trying to address Alzheimer's disease and how this actually started, your company's effort with one?
Certainly. So we are working to hopefully restore and protect the electrical connections in the brain with an experimental medicine now is in the second phase of clinical testing. We hope that it will help overcome what we think of as a societal tsunami as it relates to what Alzheimer's disease is and will become in the world. Our company is a perfect example of this. It starts with one theme, in that our founding scientist had a passion for the brain and for Alzheimer's disease, and 12 years ago moved from California to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when she got a small amount of money from the Pittsburgh venture community, actually Life Sciences Greenhouse, and for 12 years has been working on this idea of helping to restore these electrical connections.
But Ken, when we're seeing, as I mentioned, a graveyard in terms of clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease, sadly, lately, and even some companies abandoning it, saying we've thrown up our hands essentially, why does your company, and others, I should say, keep going?
Because we have to. Because we have to figure out a way to cure Alzheimer's. This is, for anybody who's been touched personally by Alzheimer's, and I have, this is personal. It's the most difficult disease state I've ever worked in, and any of us have ever worked in. This is an area where the cards are stacked against us in terms of the complexity of the brain and the difficulty of looking at how you can measure changes with a new medicine. And we just have to keep working on this to figure out a way to solve this incredible problem.
And David, quickly, call or calls to action from the report?
Well, I think that we have already 74 drugs in the pipeline, but we need more. And what we're seeing is 77% of these are driven by the small companies. So they're stepping up with different approaches, different targets that haven't been addressed before. So we need to see more of that. And the government is stepping in and has increased funding for dementia research, which is very helpful.
So let's all hope that with a greater financial commitment and the continued commitment of biotechnology, that we will fulfill the promise in Alzheimer's disease.
Certainly do.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And to read more on this report, you can go to bio.org/IA reports. That's in industry analysis. Whether in Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, mental health, rare genetic conditions and disorders, and thousands of other maladies, it starts with one. And maybe a future advance is starting in one partnership discussion here at this year's convention. On behalf of Bio and our entire production team that has made this show happen, thank you for watching Good Day Bio. Have a great rest of the convention and a safe journey home.